You think the Jewish speaker's a good speaker, and now you think I'm a good speaker. You have got no discerning powers whatsoever. I'm rubbish, and he's deplorable rubbish. Right? Get it, right? And this guy thinks he's David Bailey or something. That says a lot about my period, doesn't it?
And the anarchist speaker.
No, I'm the anarchist speaker. Now you're getting me mixed up with myself.
Sorry, not the anarchist.
The Marxist speaker.
Marxist speaker, sorry.
Yeah.
Heiko.
Yeah, he's not here at the moment. He's wandering around Soho telling people where Karl Marx lived and didn't live. So are there any questions burning in your soul to be asked? You've just lived yet another week on this godforsaken planet. All sorts of hell has broken loose in various places. What should we be discussing? And should I merely be chairing?
Do you think all this...
He's making it up as he goes along, that's easy to tell, isn't it, eh?
All the drum beating for war, do you think that's occurring
All
now?
the drum beating for war...
Do you think that's occurring now to Putin?
Occurring to... Actually, they're wrong to blame Putin at the moment. I mean, personally, I think he's totally wrong and in the wrong. But they're on an official level, they're really wrong.
They have to have an investigation.
Well, they've got to have an investigation. Although Putin and Putin's mates are doing as much as they can to more. I think you can't have an investigation anymore. That plane and those people that have died, bless them, are no longer. You cannot determine who did it. There's people looting.
But you can determine whether it's premeditated or not. That's the point.
Oh, I think you can say that for, just on anecdotal evidence. Well, they call it anecdotal evidence. It's an evidence. Listen, they know it's a bit. They know.
It's a Malaysian airline. I mean, it's a Boeing 777.
It was 33. It was 33 meters in the air. 33,000 meters in the air, right?
Virtually no flight.
So we're talking how somebody with the maths. How far is that? That's
6 miles.
Is it 6 miles? So it's 6. It's less than. It's 5 miles. 5 or 6 miles up. Right. So and they've managed to get hold of something that takes that out. Now there's only 2 people that have got those vehicles that can take that out. Why would the Kiev government take that out? It's coming. It's already gone over Kiev, and it's now just leaving Ukrainian airspace. So why would the Kiev government take that out? No apparent reason. There's no reason at all. But there is one of the commandos of the rebels did say, I've shot one down, and he got shut up very quickly, early evening. So,
That'd been a radio speech.
also, the leader of the rebels is a Russian citizen. I mean, the whole thing is. But you can't really say until you've had a proper look at this.
It's like the can't wait.
What you got there? I've got one.
But isn't that what you can give out?
Thank you very much. I'm doing that thing on Tuesday. Did you get my message?
Yes, I did.
Yeah. Right. So the answer to that is they've been waiting to get Putin for something. They want to get Putin for something, and they've overplayed their hand. Really, they've overplayed their hand because he's now back for you. Go on Russia Today, and you get fairly well-spoken, intellectual, Western-speaking pro-Russians saying you can't do this to Putin. You can't. You've got to hear the evidence before you condemn. And actually, that's correct. There's not much you can do about that. They're actually right. And now they were sort of pointing the finger at Kiev and pointing the finger at the other side, but they're no longer doing that. They've realised that they can play. There's a long game to be played here, where they end up with the some sort of moral high ground. I don't see how they can have very much moral high ground, but that's what they're going for. Are you doing a movie here? Is this a BBC documentary you're making? Is this just for you in bed tonight? Is it? I'm that handsome, am I? I just want to I want to know how to carry myself in this mood. What's my motivation? Anger, passion, but erudition. Yeah, is that what you want from me? Okay, you've got it. I'm that boy. You'd be fucking lucky. Now you've messed up. You can't show it to your missus now, can you? Right. Are there any questions? Here's another one. We're surrounded by it. How about if I start taking a photograph of them? Phone. So,
Did the Ukrainians think it was a military aircraft?
sorry? Did the Ukrainians? I don't think they thought, actually. I don't think they saw, they've got a very complicated piece of machinery, right, which they've just been given, and someone's told them roughly how to work it. You do need two people to work it, very little. And it's a plane coming towards us from the direction of Kiev. It must be the enemy, right, because they're stupid and they're not, and they're glory hunters. And the guy that knocks out the next plane from Kiev coming over is going to get all sorts of plaudits. Not what he's doing now is hiding in a gutter
You fly
somewhere.
from London
Yes.
to Asia. There's lots of
But he made a mistake.
You fly over Ukraine.
We assume, allegedly he made a
Last
mistake.
year when I flew to Delhi, India,
You flew to Delhi,
that's
India?
the flight path from London to Delhi. You fly over Ukraine.
You do, yes. It's basically because it's cost effective to take a straight line, especially if you're 6 miles up in the air. Why go like that? No, straight. You're quite right. That's what they do. It saves money. Yeah.
I remember in the 80s, remember the Russians?
I remember the 80s. Yes, I'd stopped taking drugs by then.
The Russians shot down a Korean airliner.
They did. They shot down a Korean airliner. But because the Russians shot down a Korean airliner in the 1980s, that doesn't necessarily mean that they are guilty of shooting one down yesterday, does it? But they clearly got a hand in it. That's for
I
sure.
think the Americans shot down an Iranian airliner.
Well, yes, maybe they did. I'll tell you what. The Americans have shot down quite a few airliners. They bombed the shit out of quite a few people. Really, they ought to crawl into a hole and be quiet for a while, which I think Obama is actually trying to do. And people are keeping going, come on out. There's more. You can mix it here. Yeah, all these.
So here you go. Here's a philosophy for you.
Sorry?
If the Americans were not having a work or doing our work in Afghanistan, and we weren't in Middle East, right? Giving the Al-Qaeda something to do, something to fight against, and we pulled back, Al-Qaeda and other terrorist groups could build up because they don't have a problem, and then what do you end up with?
Well,
How did the group that the Americans funded?
yeah.
No.
Well, First of all, his question is totally pertinent because before the Americans were in Afghanistan, the Russians were in Afghanistan, and the Americans were funding the opposition to the Russians. And then the Russians move out, and the people they've been funding become the enemy, right? So what sort of dodgy ground are you standing on?
Well, the dodgy ground that I'm standing on.
Yeah, well, we can see. It doesn't hold water. That's a terrible mixed metaphor.
By that standard, though, what you just said, the British basically ruled half the world in the last 150 years. So by that standard, no British person could ever comment on anything.
I think so.
The truth is,
I can. I'm an anarchist. I disapprove of my government's dealings in the last 200 years.
And so does every American.
And I also
So does every
disagree
American.
with the Americans trying to take over the mantle of the British
So do I.
halfway through this last century,
so do I.
which they quite happily did. And for the first time in a long time, the Americans are going, maybe not. No,
Yes, right.
perhaps I'll stand over here and just watch this
Right,
time.
they're more like me,
You know.
and that's good.
Yeah.
But by that standard, you shouldn't say, in my opinion, you shouldn't say...
Having controlled the economies of most of the countries of the world, and also have really
this moment,
wound up the enemies of America and the West just to breaking point, then they withdraw. So that is what you've got
the huge
now.
majority
You have
of
got that, right? And America has contributed to that. Let's not say they've caused it. Let's say they've contributed.
No question.
Right?
No question.
No question.
But most of the conflicts in the world today, I think you would agree, are the after effects of imperialism. Would you agree with that?
Oh, yes,
And there's no nation in the world more guilty of imperialism than the United Kingdom.
Absolutely.
So,
I mean,
yeah.
I speak as I'm a British speaker, speaking at speakers' corner. Yes, no, I mean,
Good old times, man.
I think you've come to the anarchist meeting, really. I mean, we understand that, and we understand that America stupidly spent 50 years taking on our mantle and doing the same thing.
I agree with that.
Probably even worse than we did it in some cases.
With bigger guns.
Yes. But
I just don't think that the
Sorry?
America should be 911 for the world. Anytime there's a problem, who do they call? They call the United States going, help us, help us.
well, you know, up until very recently, America was already there up the front. They didn't need to be called; they were causing it. Right? Because you can't control the economy. Look,
Making the call.
take an example. Let me come a bit closer because this is complex. Take an example like Iraq. Now, the reason the Americans and the English went into Iraq, right, was not per se about oil, right? It was per se about something else, right? What it was per se was about controlling the economies of these countries, right? No,
It was controlling the port.
let me finish, right? So you've got a company like Halliburton, right? And Halliburton, what Halliburton does is rebuilds, regenerates infrastructure. That's what they do. It's a big deal. You have to deal with all the other companies, all the other multinational corporations, all the sort of money, all the banks. That's who Halliburton are, and we know who Halliburton had. Great connections within the American government, right? So you get a government that's looking a bit shaky and has a very bad infrastructure, right? Or even if it hasn't got a bad infrastructure, if you can find a reason to bomb the shit out of it, its infrastructure's going to be crap. And then you can go in as Halliburton, as the American industrial military complex, right? And you can, now how do they pay for that? With the oil. But the ultimate idea wasn't the oil. Now the fact is they fucked up really seriously, right? So they didn't even get to do the infrastructure, and they didn't even get to take the oil money, right?
Now, watch this. Back in the early 96.
That's why Obama is not going in anywhere else. Because these guys saying, no, we've tried it. It doesn't work anymore. We had 50 years we did it. It worked for 50 years. All we can do now is try and, we can just have really good portfolios, buy big properties.
Yeah? Right?
Of course I'm not listening. I'm a loudmouth up a ladder in the park.
Listen to this. How about this? Remember the Panama Canal?
Yes.
50 years we leased the Panama
I
Canal.
raised my hat to the Panama Canal.
And then Panama says, no more U.S. ships go through the Panama Canal. Remember that? And what did the U.S. do? The U.S. went in and took back the Panama Canal. Yeah. Right? The same way
which actually is a difficult thing to do, really. Where are they going to put it?
They can't use ships anymore, right? Now, Saddam Hussein did the same thing for Kuwait. Kuwait was leased out, and then all of a sudden, Kuwait was supposed to go back to Iraq. And it never did because the oil was there, that port was there. The port has more ships coming in and out of it for oil than anything else. It's all about the oil. Well, who cares about blowing up a city and rebuilding it? The oil is the food.
That is, yes, maybe. But the thing is, the oil, other countries don't have oil, other countries have other things. But all you really want them to do is to be in their back pocket and paying. Right?
If you don't think oil is that important, what if you created a car that could run on water?
Listen, man.
Wait.
Look.
How long do you think you would live? How long do you think you would live?
We know not very long, because up until quite recently, most of the alternative energy supplying vehicles. Oh, God, the sentences I'm creating here. Right, but vehicles that run on water, that run on steam, that run on all these things. There was very, very clever, and most of them were bought up by the Saudi Arabians. They owned all those patents, right?
Correct, yes.
They just owned all those patents.